Welcome to this short video of the eFile section of the control sheet. By the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of the eFile process built into XCM. I will explain the columns in the section and the information they hold. I will take a return through the 3 steps of the eFile process. Finally, I will show you the different ways to view tasks that are in the eFile process for both management and users responsible for the eFile process. From the My View or search screen results, choose your client. This will open the control sheet. To access the eFile section on the control sheet, you can either scroll down to the section or choose eFile from the bookmarks available. The columns of information available in this section are deliverable, form, filing method, consent shipped on, consent received on, e-filed on, e-filed by, DCN document control number, e-filed accepted on, e-filed rejected on, deliverable status. To have full access to the eFile section, the date delivered must be populated in the shipping section of the control sheet. This tells the system that the return or returns have been sent to the client and we are now waiting for information back. As you can see in this example, there is no information in the shipping section, and subsequently the eFile in the date delivered column is grayed out and cannot be accessed by clicking in the areas available. Once we populate the date delivered in the shipping section, you will see that the task status automatically updates from to be shipped to the first step in the eFile process, which is eFile awaiting consent form. We'll populate the date and save, and you can see now that our status is eFile awaiting consent form. This is the first step in the 3 steps of the eFile process. The 3 steps in the eFile process are eFile awaiting consent form, eFile to be transmitted, which means when you send it to the taxing authority, and eFile awaiting government acceptance. Now that the task is in the eFile awaiting consent form status, you will generally not access the task again for a couple of days, possibly weeks, until the client sends back the consent form, letting you know you can continue with the eFile process. We will see as I refresh my screen that the task for AGC of New Jersey Scholarship Foundation is no longer on the page. It is now in one of the eFile statuses. There are a couple of ways you can access the eFile statuses depending on what it is you want to do. Click on Advanced Search. Choose the statuses of the eFile process. Again, eFile awaiting consent form, eFile to be transmitted, and eFile awaiting government acceptance. After we have made our choices and we search, you will see we have 43 tasks that are sitting in one stage of the 3 steps in the eFile process. We can either sort that category by the status, or we can use the pie chart to drill down and look at the different clients and the different statuses. You can also use this as the person responsible for processing eFile steps, or for easier access, as you may be getting to this every single day, if not multiple times a day. You can have the eFile bin anchored to your My View page. You can see here on the My View page, besides the task and extensions assigned to me and my checklist, I have also included the eFile bin right here on my My View page. This can be done by the person who has Manage User Rights. They can add this right to your user profile. By doing that, you can easily access all the filing information regarding the eFile steps in the process. And just as we saw in the advanced search, we have a pie chart that can break it down for us into the different steps. From either of the views I have showed you, you can now update the information depending on the stage that you are working on in the eFile bin. If I have received a great number of consent forms today, I can pull up my group of eFile awaiting taxpayer consent form. I can update one client by clicking on the name and going to their task information and eFile. And I can populate the date that the consent form was received back to us, which will then move it to the status of eFile to be transmitted. Let's go ahead and do that. We've received all the consent forms, and once I click Save, the status changes from eFile awaiting taxpayer consent form to eFile to be transmitted. What's nice is that it stays in this view for me, so if I'm going to go ahead and now transmit the returns to the taxing authority, all I need to do is go into my tax software and do that. I can then populate today's date in the returned eFile column. Once I do that, it will again move to the next step in the eFile process. Go ahead and populate the same date, fill in columns, and click Save. Once I click Save, you will see I have now moved from eFile to be transmitted status to the eFile awaiting government acceptance. Now at this point, it generally takes the taxing authority a couple of days to approve or reject an eFile. So I will just return to the My View page, as there's nothing else I need to do with this return at the moment. Now again, from the eFile bin or the search page, you can also do these steps in bulk. Click on My eFile. Click on the status I'd like to update in bulk. Generally speaking, you get quite a few tax return consent forms back in one day. You can pull up that grouping. You can choose several clients from that category. Go to the task information and eFile, and you'll see that all the clients that have eFile with consent forms will now show, and I can update them all at once just by populating the date, drag and drop, and save. You can see this will save the admin a lot of time to quickly make date updates and move the tasks along in the eFile process. Now again, by having the eFile view anchored to your My View page, it's very easy to see how many clients you have in each status. Whether you need to check for government acceptance or not, whether you have to make phone calls or use the eFile reminder email to get consent forms back as the due dates gets close, or whether you have to go to your tax software and file your return. Once you have completed all of the steps in the eFile process, so once a return is accepted by the government and we update that information, the task will then move to the completed status. We choose what we need to update, enter the date the tax return was accepted, drag and drop for all our deliverables if they apply, and click Save. Once we click Save, you will see the current status will not change. It will still sit in the eFile awaiting government acceptance. This is because you may have one return that gets eFile accepted, and one that's still waiting, and one that maybe gets rejected. Rather than closing the task completely, it gives you the chance to continue if you want to make additional updates and changes. When all the statuses are in the deliverable status of complete, you simply click on Move to Completed, and you can now see the status updates to completed. Once this happens, the task will now show as completed in all searches and reports you may run going forward. This concludes the eFile overview short video. We have covered how the eFile process begins, how and where to access the eFile section to make updates, and automatically move the task through the process. Finally, we reviewed how to complete a task once all the eFile steps have been finished.